Lines are being drawn, cutting through the European continent. The advanced economies of the West on one side, the colossal Eastern Federation of Russia on the other side, with Central Europe, currently a NATO aligned buffer region, basically caught smack in the middle. The geopolitics are simple. Well, actually, they're complicated, but I can make them simple. As a professor of mine once told me, if you can't explain something complex in a simple way, you don't really understand it yourself. So here it is, simply what you need to know about the dark cloud moving over Europe, coming closer and closer. It brings not rain, but the dreadful promise of war, of havoc and chaos unleashed on the continent that gave birth to world-spanning wars twice in 1 century. In summary, Russia's historic sphere of influence has long been suppressed by the military and economic might of the global hegemon, the United States, as they now retreat from Europe to focus on Zhongguo in the Far East, in the coming clash of great powers to be played out in the Pacific Theater, the ocean that sits between China and the US. The exit of the US may tempt Russia, the exit of the US from Europe, may tempt Russia to expand its sphere of influence further westwards to what they may feel is a more natural position, one that affords the Russian state strategic depth, which they have lacked since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. On the other side, a Western Europe grown comfortable with their NATO buffer states reaching far past the Carpathian Mountains in Central Europe to the doorstep of the Russian Federation itself. They will no doubt oppose any pushback westwards, regardless of if it's a reversion to a more natural border. And after nearly a century of following the US into wars rather than leading any themselves, the Western powers may sleepwalk over confidently into a conflict they are not prepared for, nor are their civilians willing to fight and die for. Caught in the middle are the middling economies of Central Europe. So far has NATO expanded from the Atlantic, for which NATO is named, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So far has it come eastwards that the frontline states are in Eastern Europe now, not Central or Western Europe, right? The Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Hungary, Ukraine, Moldova, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey. Citizen sentiment across these states is most definitely mixed, and those populations close to the Russians know them not to be their enemies, and many will be unwilling to fight in the name of Western powers that lie 1,000 miles to the west of their home countries, distant neighbors at best. Russia has recently criticized NATO for its rampant militarization, and NATO Secretary Mark Rutte has said just yesterday, at the time of this recording, at the conclusion, of the NATO summit, that the alliance faces a long-term threat from Russia. He's just spelling it out clearly. It's like, this guy, that's our enemy right there. That's the threat. He says, especially with allies like China, Iran, and North Korea strengthening ties with Russia. It's undoubtedly a call for preparation for war, if not a call directly right now for war itself. And I'll cover over the next few days and weeks what this means for each country in NATO, the dynamics at play, what you won't hear in the news, and certainly not what you'll get in the news, but here you'll get it summarized into short videos, albeit without decent animations. And I'll give you the news and the analysis, unbiased and without the Western spin. I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one.